How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury. Picture a guy named Steven. He's got his life together. Smart, successful, and he's been dating Gabby for 4 years. They share an apartment. Their friends are getting engaged and having kids, and Gabby's ready to take the next step. But Steven, he's completely stuck. Night after night, he lies awake, tormented by one question. What if there's someone out there who could make me just 5% happier? He knows Gabby is amazing. She's a nurse who fosters cats, loyal, kind, basically wonderful. But here's the thing, she isn't perfect. He wishes she were more outgoing, more into the deep, philosophical conversations he loves. So he waits. He makes endless pros and cons lists. He goes for these long, contemplative swims. He researches this decision like he's buying expensive whiskey or high-end headphones, searching desperately for that magical moment of 100% certainty. Meanwhile, Gabby's world is falling apart. She's given him an ultimatum, propose or we're done, and still, Steven can't pull the trigger. His fear of choosing wrong is somehow stronger than his fear of losing something great that's right in front of him. Steven's story isn't unique. It's the story of love in our modern world, a world drowning in options, where your phone holds 1,000 potential dates, where someone supposedly better is always one swipe away. This is the world that behavioral scientist and dating coach Logan Ury unpacks in her brilliant book, How to Not Die Alone. This isn't your typical fluffy dating advice. This is hard science, a look inside our own brains to understand why we keep sabotaging ourselves romantically. Logan spent years at Google, working with famous behavioral economist Dan Ariely, in something they called the irrational lab. They studied the predictable, often ridiculous ways our brains make decisions. And she had this revelation. The same mental quirks that make us say we'll save for retirement while maxing out credit cards are the exact forces destroying our love lives. This book tackles one of life's biggest questions. How do we find and keep love when we're overwhelmed by choice and unrealistic expectations? She argues that by understanding our own irrationality, we can break free from the invisible patterns holding us back. So for the next while, we're diving into this surprising science. We'll uncover hidden dating patterns you might not even realize you have, and learn a completely new way of thinking about love, not as some magical accident that happens to us, but as a series of intentional choices we can learn to make better. This is about becoming the architect of your own love life. At the core of Logan Ury's work is a simple but powerful idea. While love might be natural, dating definitely isn't. We're not born knowing how to choose the right partner, especially not in today's world. Our ancestors had it way easier. For most of human history, your life followed a script written by your religion, community, and family. Marriage was often a practical question. Whose land touches whose? Which family has more camels? The goal wasn't finding a soulmate. It was survival and stability. Today, we write our own stories. We have this incredible freedom to choose where we live, what we do, and most terrifyingly, who we love. But with that freedom comes crushing pressure. What if we get it wrong? And if we do, we have nobody to blame but ourselves. This is modern love. And Ury argues it's harder now than ever, for a few key reasons. First, the paradox of choice. We've gone from picking someone from our small village to having thousands of potential dates on our phones. Our brains think they want more options, but research shows too much choice leads to anxiety, paralysis, and regret. We're like kids in a candy store with 1,000 jars, so overwhelmed we choose nothing at all. Or, we pick one and spend forever wondering if another would have tasted better. Second, we're addicted to a certainty that doesn't exist in love. We can spend hours researching the perfect vacuum cleaner or the best taco spot, reading reviews until we feel confident we've made the right choice. We want to apply that same logic to finding a partner. But there's no Yelp for human hearts. No spreadsheet can tell you if James or Jillian will be a good spouse in 30 years. Great relationships, Ury tells us, are built, not discovered. But our minds stay trapped, thinking the perfect answer is just one more Google search, or one more date, away. Finally, we're bombarded by unrealistic expectations. Social media shows us everyone's highlight reel of perfect engagements and dreamy vacations. Disney movies and rom-coms taught us that love should be effortless, a fairy tale starting with a cute meet and ending with happily ever after. These forces work against us, leaving us stressed, confused, and wondering why everyone else seems to have figured this out. The truth? They haven't. According to Ury, most of us are held back by dating blind spots, patterns we can't see in ourselves. She's organized these into what she calls the 3 dating tendencies, each rooted in unrealistic expectations. The first is the Romanticizer. The Romanticizer has unrealistic expectations of relationships. Imagine Maya, a successful dentist and child of immigrants whose parents have been happily married for 35 years. She wants that. She grew up on Disney movies, and she's waiting for her own happily ever after. Her motto: it'll happen when it's meant to happen. She believes love is something that happens to you, like lightning, so she doesn't use dating apps. They feel too unromantic. She's waiting to meet her soulmate, organically, maybe reaching for the same tomato at a farmer's market. She has a very specific image of her future husband: light hair, light eyes, tall, tasteful tattoos, ruggedly handsome. Romanticizers like Maya fall into what psychologist Renee Franiuk calls the soulmate mindset. They believe relationship success comes from finding the right person. The problem? This mindset is passive. It lets you avoid putting in effort because you're just waiting for fate. It also makes you incredibly picky, dismissing anyone who doesn't fit your fairy tale image. When a romanticizer does get into a relationship, the moment things get hard, they think, wait, this is supposed to be effortless, this can't be the one, and they bail. The alternative is the work-it-out mindset, believing relationships take effort, that love is an action you take, not just a feeling. People with this mindset do much better because when they hit rough patches, they don't see it as a sign they're with the wrong person. They see it as an opportunity to work together and grow stronger. Ury's advice to romanticizers is simple: Disney lied to us. The hard work of love isn't just finding someone. That's only the beginning. The real challenge and the real magic is the daily work you put in to grow and sustain a great relationship. Even Prince Charming has morning breath. Time to give up on the fairy tale and start looking for someone real. The second dating tendency is the maximizer. The maximizer has unrealistic expectations of their partner. This brings us back to Stephen, tortured by the thought that he could be 5% happier. Maximizers are a special breed of perfectionist. They're compelled to explore every single option before deciding, terrified of making the wrong choice. Their motto: why settle? On the opposite end is the satisficer. Now, this doesn't mean settler. Satisficers can have super high standards. The difference is, once they find something or someone that meets their standards, they choose it and don't look back. They don't torture themselves, wondering what else is out there. Imagine you're on a 2-hour flight. A satisficer scrolls through movie options, finds one they like, and starts watching within 5 minutes. A maximizer spends 25 minutes scrolling through every single movie, show, and documentary to ensure they're watching the absolute best option, losing precious viewing time. Here's the fascinating part. Research shows satisficers end up way happier with their choices than maximizers. Even if a maximizer objectively makes a better choice, say buying the top-rated espresso machine after hours of research, they're often less happy with it. They obsess over its small flaws, wondering if a different model would have been better. They suffer twice, first in the agony of deciding, then in the regret that follows. For a maximizer, the goal is making the world's best decision. For a satisficer, it's being happy with the decision they make. In dating, this tendency is crippling. You can't date every single person in your city. Eventually, you have to choose with incomplete information. This terrifies maximizers, who believe that with enough research, they can find the perfect person and feel 100% certain. But that perfect person and that complete certainty don't exist. So how can a maximizer learn to be more like a satisficer? Ury introduces a brilliant mathematical concept called the secretary problem. Imagine you're hiring a secretary with 100 candidates to interview, one by one. After each interview, you must either hire them or let them go. No going back. How do you maximize your chances of picking the single best candidate? The mathematical answer is the 37% rule. Interview and reject the first 37 candidates. But pay close attention. Identify the very best person from that first group. That's your benchmark. From then on, hire the very next person who's better than that benchmark. How does this apply to dating? You can't interview a set number of people, but you can apply the 37% rule to your dating window. Say you start dating at 18 and want to be settled by 40. That's 22 years. 37% of that is about 8 years. The rule suggests by age 26, you should have a good sense of your benchmark, the best person you've dated so far. Then you should be ready to commit to the next person you meet who you like more than that benchmark. The point isn't to be rigidly mathematical. The point is realizing you probably already have enough data. You don't need more research. You've likely already met someone who'd make a great partner. The next time you find someone as good or better than your benchmark, Ury's advice is simple: commit. Choose to be happy. The third dating tendency is the hesitator. The hesitator has unrealistic expectations of themselves. Think of Shay. He's 35, over 6 feet tall, charming, financially stable with a good job. He seems like a catch, but he's never had a real girlfriend. Why? He says he's never felt ready. First, he wanted his career sorted out. Then he needed to save enough money. Then he started therapy and wanted to work on himself first. Now he's switched jobs and feels he can't date until things settle down. His motto, "I'll wait until I'm a catch." The hesitator believes one day they'll wake up feeling 100% ready to date. That story, Ury says, is fiction. Life doesn't work that way. We all feel awkward sometimes. We all have things we want to improve. But if you wait until you're perfect, you'll wait forever. Hesitators are paralyzed by fear. Fear of rejection, of failure, of not being good enough. By not dating, they protect themselves from failure. But they also miss the huge opportunity cost of waiting. First, you're missing the chance to learn what you actually want in a partner. Dating is an iterative process. You think you want someone mysterious and aloof. You date them and realize you actually want someone warm and communicative. You can't learn these lessons from the sidelines. Second, you're missing the chance to get better at dating itself. Dating is a skill like anything else. It takes practice. Ury tells her clients they need to get in their reps. While you're home preparing to date, someone else is out there on a first date, practicing their storytelling, listening skills, ability to flirt. They're making rookie mistakes now. You have to make them at some point, so might as well start. So how does a hesitator overcome this paralysis? Ury offers a toolkit from behavioral science. First, make a deadline. Short deadlines are incredibly motivating. Give yourself a date, say 3 weeks from now, when you'll start dating. That's enough time to prep, but not so long you lose momentum. Second, tell people. Publicly announcing your goals makes you more likely to follow through. Tell a few trusted friends your deadline. Now your reputation's on the line. Third, commit to a new identity. Instead of thinking of yourself as someone who will date, start thinking of yourself as a dater. There's a famous study where voters were asked one of two questions: how important is it to you to vote? Or how important is it to you to be a voter? The group nudged to think of themselves as voters were 11% more likely to actually show up at the polls. Identity drives action. Stand in the mirror and say it out loud: I am a dater. It might feel ridiculous, but it works. Finally, start small. You don't have to go on 8 dates a week. Set a simple, achievable goal, like 1 date per week. The only way to get better at dating is to actually date, imperfect as you are. Because everyone else is imperfect too. Once we understand our blind spots, whether we're a romanticizer, maximizer, or hesitator. The next step is getting clear on what we should actually look for in a partner. This is where many of us get it wrong. We're looking for the wrong things. Ury makes a brilliant distinction between a prom date and a life partner. What makes a great prom date? Someone who looks good in pictures, is fun for a night, makes you look cool to your friends. A life partner, though, is someone who'll be there through highs and lows. Someone who'll hold your purse in the cancer clinic. Someone you can make hard decisions with. Someone who'll remember to take your future kids to the dentist. Many of us still use a high school rubric to evaluate adult partners. We optimize for short-term fun instead of long-term compatibility. This is a classic cognitive error called present bias, where we place disproportionately high value on the here and now. The author herself fell into this trap. She tells a story about meeting a man named Brian at Burning Man. He was handsome, spontaneous, fun. She got swept up in the romance. But back in the real world, he was also unreliable and sent mixed messages. The quintessential prom date. Meanwhile, there was Scott, a guy from work. He was kind, patient, funny, a natural teacher who tutored her in coding. He made her feel smart and secure, but he didn't like exotic travel or the Burning Man crowd. So she wrote him off. Only after working with a dating coach did she realize her mistake. Her coach gave her simple homework. Focus on how you want to feel in a relationship. She wrote down, I want to feel smart, funny, appreciated, and secure. Suddenly, she saw Scott in a new light. He was the life partner, hiding in plain sight. Spoiler alert, she married him. So what actually matters for long-term happiness? Ury compares what her matchmaking clients ask for with what decades of relationship science, pioneered by researchers like John Gottman, say actually predicts success. Here's what matters less than we think. First, looks. Our brains are wired to prize attractiveness because it once signaled health and good genes. But lust inevitably fades. Over 7 years, sexual desire for a partner declines twice as fast as feelings of friendship and loyalty. All that matters is that you're attracted to the person, not how society would rate their looks. Second, money. Yes, financial stress can destroy a relationship, but beyond a certain threshold, around $75,000 a year, according to one famous study, more money doesn't buy more happiness. We adapt to our circumstances. Lottery winners, a year after their windfall, are no happier than anyone else. Third, a similar personality. We think we want to date ourselves, but research shows there's no correlation between personality, similarity, and relationship satisfaction. What you want is someone who complements you, not your personality twin. And fourth, shared hobbies. You don't need to marry a sommelier just because you love wine. What matters is that your partner supports your interests, not that they share them. So what matters more than we think? The qualities of a life partner. Kindness and emotional stability. These are two of the most underrated but crucial traits. Emotionally stable people can regulate their impulses. They respond thoughtfully, instead of reacting angrily. You can spot kindness by watching how someone treats people they don't need anything from, like a waiter or bus driver. Loyalty. You want someone who has your back, in good times and bad. A good indicator is whether they have long-term friends from different stages of life. A growth mindset. This is the belief, identified by psychologist Carol Dweck, that people can grow and change. When challenges arise, a partner with a growth mindset sees it as an opportunity to work together, not a sign the relationship is doomed. And finally, perhaps most importantly, how they make you feel. What side of you does this person bring out? Do they make you feel competent and cared for, or anxious and small? You're not just choosing a person, you're choosing who you'll be when you're with them. With these new criteria in mind, you have to get out there. But modern dating, especially on apps, is a minefield of cognitive biases. Ury argues that the very design of dating apps can make us shallower and more indecisive. The environment where we make choices dramatically affects the choices we make. Apps force us to judge people on valuable attributes, things easy to measure and compare, like height, income, education. We see a profile that says 5'9" and another that says 5'10", and suddenly that 1 inch seems incredibly important, a phenomenon called the evaluability hypothesis. We become shoppers, not daters, comparing people like their cameras or shoes. We also think we know what we want, but we're probably wrong. When we set up our app preferences, we filter out countless potential matches based on checklists that likely have no bearing on our long-term happiness. I once swiped left on Scott, Ury admits, because his profile photo made him look like a bro. So how do we swipe smarter? First, expand your filters. Be more open-minded. Second, look for reasons to say yes, not no. Be less judgmental. Third, date fewer people at a time to avoid choice overload. And fourth, get to the actual date as quickly as possible. The point is to meet in person, not gain a pen pal. Once you're on the date, the goal is shifting your mindset from evaluative to experiential. Stop asking, is this person good enough for me? Do they check all my boxes? And start asking, how do I feel with this person? What's it like to share this experience with them? This isn't a job interview. Ury encourages us to design better, more creative dates. Instead of coffee or drinks, where you sit across from each other firing off resume questions, go for a walk, visit a farmer's market, or take a cooking class. An activity-based date lets you see what a person's like in action. How do they handle a challenge? Are they playful? You gather so much more data. And for goodness sake, forget the spark. Forget the spark, Ury writes. This is her nemesis. Our obsession with instant chemistry is one of the most dangerous ideas in modern dating. It causes us to dismiss amazing people who might be slow burns, people who aren't immediately dazzling but would make wonderful long-term partners. The spark is often just a measure of how charming or narcissistic someone is. Sometimes, that feeling of chemistry is actually just anxiety, because the person is unpredictable and you're not sure how they feel about you. Attraction and chemistry can, and often do, grow over time. This brings us to one of Ury's most powerful behavioral hacks: create a default. Our brains are lazy. We tend to stick with the preset option. This is why, in countries where organ donation is opt-out, you're automatically a donor unless you check a box. Donation rates are near 100%. In opt-in countries, they're incredibly low. You can use this for your dating life. Make the second date your default. Assume you'll go out with someone a second time unless there's a major deal breaker. This forces you to override your brain's natural negativity bias, our tendency to focus on someone's flaws. It gives you a chance to see if a slow burn might ignite. You're not deciding if they're your life partner. You're just deciding if you want to spend another hour or two with them. As a relationship progresses, you'll face major milestones. And here, Ury introduces another crucial mantra: decide, don't slide. Sliding means slipping into the next stage of a relationship, becoming exclusive, moving in together, even getting married, without conscious intention. It just sort of happens. Deciding means making an intentional choice at each of these key decision points. Research shows couples who decide are significantly happier and less likely to divorce than couples who slide. Don't assume you're exclusive. Have the DTR, the define the relationship conversation. Be clear and direct, and be especially careful about moving in together. Many people see it as a test for marriage, but it often becomes a trap. The inertia becomes incredibly powerful. It makes breaking up much harder, so people slide into marriages they might not have chosen otherwise. Before you combine your furniture, make sure you're aligned on what it means for your future. What if you're not sure about the future? What if you're wondering if you should break up? Here, Ury identifies two more tendencies: hitchers and ditchers. Ditchers leave relationships too soon. They confuse the intense feeling of falling in love with the calmer state of being in love. When the initial infatuation fades, they panic and leave, forever chasing that new relationship high. Hitchers stay in relationships too long. They're victims of cognitive biases, like the sunk cost fallacy, the feeling that you've already invested so much time, you can't leave now, and loss aversion, our powerful psychological drive to avoid losses. The pain of losing something feels twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. So we hold on to bad relationships, just like we hold on to clothes we never wear, because the thought of losing them is too painful. If you decide it's time to leave, Ury provides a step-by-step plan for a compassionate breakup. And if you're the one who's been left, she offers scientifically backed strategies for getting over heartbreak. The key is reframing the breakup as a gain, not a loss. Journaling about the positive aspects of the breakup, or even just the negative aspects of the relationship you left behind, has been shown to significantly speed up recovery. Rediscover parts of yourself you gave up in the relationship. See it as a chance to learn and grow. Finally, for those who've found their person and are ready to commit, Ury emphasizes that happily ever after is a myth. Great relationships aren't discovered. They're created, day by day. And they must be designed to change, because you will change. We all suffer from the end of history illusion, the mistaken belief that the person we are today is the person we'll be forever. We underestimate how much we'll evolve. A successful relationship is one that can adapt with the people in it. To do this, she proposes two powerful tools for what she calls intentional love. The first is the relationship contract. This isn't a legal document. It's a living agreement you create with your partner to talk about your values and expectations around everything from finances and family to sex and social life. It's a way to make your implicit assumptions explicit. The second is the weekly check-in ritual. Every week, you set aside time to ask each other a few simple questions. How was your week? Did you feel supported by me? How can I support you in the week to come? This simple ritual creates a dedicated space to address small issues before they become big resentments. In the end, How to Not Die Alone is a book about taking control. It's about trading the fantasy of perfect, effortless love for the reality of great, intentional love. It teaches us that love isn't a mystery we hope to stumble upon in the dark. It's a skill we can learn, a process we can design, and a series of choices we can make, with purpose and heart, every single day. There's a line in this book that, for me, cuts through all the noise of modern dating advice. It's simply this: great relationships are built, not discovered. If you take only one thing away from our time together today, I hope it's that. For so long, our culture has sold us a story about love being magical destiny, a lightning strike, a force outside our control. We're taught to be passive recipients of fate, to wait for the one to appear and solve the puzzle of our lives. What Logan Ury does so powerfully is dismantle that myth, not with cynicism but with science and deep compassion. She hands the power back to us. She shows us our love lives aren't a lottery we hope to win, but a house we can choose to build. And she gives us the blueprints. The idea of the three dating tendencies, the romanticizer, the maximizer, and the hesitator, is a game changer. It's like being given glasses that suddenly let you see the invisible patterns running your life. When you recognize yourself as a maximizer always searching for someone 5% better, or a hesitator forever waiting to be ready, you can finally stop blaming the world for your lack of success in love and start addressing the real cause. You can begin working with your own psychology rather than being a victim of it. But the book goes beyond just diagnosis. It offers a cure, and that cure is intentional love. It's the practice of being thoughtful, conscious, and deliberate at every stage of a relationship. It's about choosing to decide, not slide. It's about learning to look for a life partner, not just a prom date. And it's about understanding the work doesn't end when you find someone. It's where it truly begins. If you're feeling overwhelmed or cynical about dating, this book is an antidote. It provides a process. And as Ury says, process creates peace. It turns the chaotic, emotional roller coaster of dating into a series of manageable steps and thoughtful decisions. So where do you start? Here are a few simple actions you can take, inspired by the book. First, take a moment for honest self-reflection. Which of the 3 dating tendencies resonates most with you? Are you waiting for a fairy tale? Paralyzed by choice? Or waiting until you're perfect? Just naming your blind spot is the first, and most important, step toward overcoming it. Second, on your very next date, try shifting from an evaluative to an experiential mindset. Instead of running through a mental checklist of their qualifications, just try to be present. Pay attention to the experience. And afterward, instead of asking, "Do they check my boxes?" ask yourself the questions from the post-date date. How did my body feel? What side of me did they bring out? Do I feel more energized or de-energized? Tune into your experience, not just your evaluation. And third, if you're in a relationship, consider creating your own weekly check-in ritual. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just set aside 10 minutes every Sunday evening to connect with your partner and ask how you can better support each other. It's a small investment of time that can yield a lifetime of returns in connection and understanding. That was a summary of How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury. We've certainly covered the main territory today, but I must be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks and give you the lay of the land, but it can never replace the feeling of actually walking the cobblestone streets yourself. The real power of this book is in the details, the specific exercises, the relatable stories, and the quiet moments where Ury's words speak directly to your own experience. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've discussed today has sparked a flicker of recognition in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an investment in a happier, more intentional love life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, it would mean the world if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.